Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Welcome back to the Ninja Selling Podcast. Matt and Garrett are back, and today we're going to talk about some marketing stuff. Before we get started on that, I want to just tell you all, if you want to learn more about Ninja Selling, the podcast, and our community, you can go check us out at ninjaselling.com. You can go into Facebook at the Ninja Selling Podcast. We have amazing people on all fronts to help you get further down the path with Ninja. And then we have an amazing community out there, which they will work with you all over the United States to help you kind of get a deeper understanding of Ninja and what we're doing. And on all levels, I'm going to make that very brief this morning. We're going to move right into our topic. Matt, good morning.
Good morning, Garrett. Hope you're doing well today, sir. Well, we've already spent a lot of time together this morning, so I know you're doing great, but
we always do. So Matt, this topic came up for me because in working with people with their businesses over the years, one of the big things we talk about is marketing, specifically postcards. We can go down that route. There's lots of other forms of marketing. And it's always talked about, for the most part, is Autoflow. Everyone's like, I need to get Autoflow. I have to set up Autoflow. I've been told to this. I've got to get my Autoflow set up. When we're doing business planning, it's one of the first things people look at is, what is my Autoflow program for the year? I was thinking about this with the last guest that we just had on, which was Mark Gordon. He said, teach me while I'm not paying attention. And that kind of clicked for me of like, gosh, like that's the idea that we need to be thinking about when we have our marketing pieces going out and our flow pieces going out, which then got me thinking about, okay, there's a difference between a Autoflow program, a really good Autoflow program, and a custom flow program. Matt, that's what I wanted to talk to you about today, and hopefully the listeners out there will gather some nuggets.
Well, I like this because this is systems. I'm a big fan of systems, love systems, and most people, most agents don't have enough systems around their flow, things that happen outside of a transaction. A lot of y'all are fantastic at having great systems when you're running a deal, how contract to close works, how onboarding works, using the buyer process, seller process, all of those things. But then it's like, well, what happens after? And some of you have great Autoflow, which is the foundation. I don't want to undervalue how important Autoflow in its purest form, where it's like, as we call it, the 2 postcards, 1 email a month, the 3 touches, very, very important.
Yeah, I'm not taking away from Autoflow. A really good Autoflow program that's got good information, that's going out consistently, that allows you to walk away and go spend time with your people and build relationships and be out there having lunches. Oh, like there are some incredible, simple Autoflow programs out there.
It's only going to do so much, though.
It's only going to do so much. And I watch some people go too far.
They just go all art. If you go back and search, we did one, is there enough science in your Autoflow? And that's a very important episode because people like, oh, I do Autoflow so I stay top of mind. And we talk about that in the installation. And I think if that's the only thing you go into it, that is the wrong intention. You don't do Autoflow to stay top of mind. You do Autoflow to help keep your people informed so that you're providing value, so that if they do have questions, they come to you, because they know that you're their advisor, not just so you can simply stay top of mind.
Yes. So as you start to grow here, Matt, you made the comment of like a real good custom flow program. And I think you can turn it into be an auto side of it too. I think you can make it custom and make it so it's auto at the same time. You said it makes it your voice. And I want to just kind of see if we can spend a little time on that, because I think it's incredibly important that it's your voice coming through the flow that you're providing for your people.
Yeah. I think getting your voice in there, and this doesn't necessarily mean your actual voice, although that could be it, right? You on video or you on audio, but your words, right? And so to kind of paint the picture, Garrett, I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast before. I talk about this with all my clients, is I look at flow as a spectrum. And on one side of the spectrum, you have full on live one-to-one flow. That's, your phone calls, your face-to-face meetings. That's one end of the spectrum. Then the other end is fully automatic. You sign up for a program with a company that sends postcards. They send email newsletters for you, right? And then there's all this space in between where some levels of live handwritten notes, group meetings, things like that. And then even some level of auto flow of like automatic birthdays, home anniversaries and things. But all this can be customized, I look at it this way. And this is your opportunity to put your voice into it, like real estate reviews, or as Mark had talked about on social media, doing videos where you talk about what's going on in the market, or you level up your email newsletters to have a paragraph that you write from your perspective. And I look at putting your voice in there is what solidifies the connection between you and the people who are receiving whatever that flow is. That makes you their trusted advisor. That makes you the person who's the source. That makes you the person who has the goods, so that when they do have questions, they come to you versus going to someone else who might be the source for them, if that makes sense.
Well, and Matt, I think also on your spectrum idea, like there's a give and take on that spectrum side, because if you go down the route of, let's say, top flows, one-to-one, face-to-face communication, like that'd be the top. The challenge with it up there is that the amount of people you can influence and the amount of people you can be interacting with all of a sudden is reduced. At top, we see when you talk about talking to 50 people per week, and if you're doing 50 live interactions every single week with different people, like that's your world. Where then you have your Autoflow on the total opposite end of the spectrum, where it's like, okay, I can have that thing go out, I can push a button, and it's going to hit 5,000 people like that. Done. Moving along. The interaction and the quality of those touches is where you need to find somewhere in between. If you're going to be a ninja, let's say if you're truly going to be a ninja where you're going to bring in that relationship side of it, you've got to find somewhere in the middle here and probably a little bit more towards the top range to really make the biggest impact.
I agree. And I think this is where you got to build a system. Connecting this to what Brian Harwood was talking about when we had him on the podcast, and having his raving fans as a small number, like he has a system of custom flow set up for just that group of people, making sure that he is in really high flow, really quality touches with those people. And I think this is where you start to look at, okay, what segments of my database are going to get what certain things? And then which venues am I going to talk about which things? Social media is a big thing in real estate and everything right now. And I think there's a lot of value there. I tell everybody, don't even go down that path until you have your Autoflow set up, because Autoflow is really easy. And I know I'm biased to this because I have a company, but like, even if you're doing everything on your own, if you have a system in place to sit down once a month and get 2 postcards created and 1 email newsletter created, like your Autoflow is done. Now you can go venture into the other space. And I see so many people try to build custom flow without systems before building that Autoflow foundation. But you look at then the custom flow is, okay, I got my people that I want to hit, and then I have the venues I want to hit. Social media is one of those venues where you're putting out a video maybe once a week, and then you have your raving fans where you're like, hey, I got to make sure I'm showing up for some personal life events with these people this month, and here's what they are. If you plan it out, and Garrett, I want to hear your thoughts on good ways to start planning this. But if it's planned, it actually is not super complicated, because I can hear people already. Another thing for me to pay attention to is another thing for me to do, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm happy you brought up social media, because I feel like I'm being bombarded by clients right now that are like, I've got to be doing this, and I got to be on this, and I got to have these videos going out. And I'm like, can you just have a regular postcard go out first? Like, let's just worry about like some of that stuff that's just a little bit more cut and paste. Because the minute all of a sudden you get busy, all of a sudden, guess what drops off? Your social media stuff. All of a sudden you haven't posted on that in a month. And it's like, oh, I should go back and make another video again. And that's the trick of what we're trying to get ahead of here, is coming up with a system, coming up with a plan, so that no matter how crazy your environment gets, you are going to be successful with having your touches go out and to keep that level of interaction with your people. So you asked about like planning ahead and getting ahead of this. When you start just simply with making a business plan, that's where I typically find, if you want to create more of a custom type of flow going out, especially through postcards, and we'll just stick there for a second, you need to get ahead of it about in November and sit down and say, okay, first off, what do I want to send out through this year? Are there certain months I want to do market stats? Are there certain months I want to do, focusing on your home and how to make your home maintain the highest level of value you can possibly have? Maybe there is a moment through the year that I want to do some stuff on investing and getting people to understand the power of investing in real estate. you can map certain ones out that are fairly, the market stats and updates are not this way, but for the most part, you can come up with some fairly timeless pieces of mail that are your voice about the marketplace. Me talking about investing in real estate and the power of it. It's not some cookie cutter, clipped thing that I just took and went like, ooh, that looks good, I'll just stick that in there. It's me maybe talking about some experiences of some people that I've done some investment properties with and the returns on them and what that looks like and the amount of investments up front. And the beauty of that, if I can create that well before it needs to go out the door, I want to have these things planned, systematized, ready to go. When it does go out and my client goes, that was amazing information, I can now have an educated conversation about it instead of going like, what did I send? How did that go out? Wait, hold on a second. Like, do you have the postcard so we can I can read it and look at it with you? That's the beauty of Matt. Like when you say your voice, like that's what I would want to have in there so that I can have a more of a detailed conversation. I look at my friend Randall, who used to sell in Seattle, now he sells down in Palm Springs. He's got a postcard he puts out, which is for love or for money. And if you're going to remodel a property, think about your time frames you're going to be living in that property. How long are you going to planning on being here? And maybe you need to be thinking more about I'm remodeling for money more so than remodeling for the love of what I want to have in this house in my next 10 years of enjoying it. There's two sides to it. That's a great his voice postcard that even better than that thing can be sent out every single year. It is done in that I will never sit there and be like, oh, he sent this out last year. That was kind of strange. It's his creation. It's his information. You can do it year after year. Do it every 2 years if you want to, but it's custom and it's in the bag and it's ready to go. And you can go back and just start. We want to start building on these things, Matt. That's what I look for people is like, take the time to start building your custom flow programs where you can come back, you got stuff to pull from. And some of those just might be a template. Like I look at a market update card, you might just have spaces in there, you put the new data into and boom, off to the printer. Let's get it out there.
Well, you start to develop this portfolio of content that you get to go back to and use and repurpose. If you've been in this business for 2 years, you probably have content from year one that you can use. I mean, we even do that sometimes on the podcast, right? We'll go back and look at episodes and say, hey, what topics did we do that are relevant again now that have a new spin? And let's talk about that. And it works.
Think about how many though are custom. The custom ones are one-offs.
They are. But if you do the custom ones, you develop this, if you have a plan, as you said, right? Kind of like Randall's postcard there, and you do that frequently, it might be hard to get started with that. But then once you have all this stuff in your portfolio, it's your voice. And this is the thing about the voice part of it too, is I look at a custom flow piece, whether it's a system, like, hey, I need to make sure that I'm identifying one or two people that I want to send flowers to, which is kind of an art side of thing, or it's a postcard, is your voice is unique. Even if you're saying the same thing, if you and I say the same thing, but we say it differently in our voice, that makes it very unique to us, which means it cannot be done by somebody else. Nobody else can say something the way I'm going to say it or say something the way you're going to say it. So what's great about custom flow is you can take information that is available to everybody, digest it into your voice, and now no one has that piece that you've just created, which is so cool. Whereas I open my mailbox sometimes and I got the same pieces from different people.
I was just going to say, you get literally, it's like boom, boom, boom. Like, and it's funny, they go out in batches too. So you get all the emails at exactly the same time. They fill up your inbox and you're like, okay, I just got 3 literally seconds apart from each other. They're all the same information, which makes me go, ugh. I just delete them, all 3 of them immediately. Cause it's just like, it's not who they are.
And now we're in a unique situation where we're on a lot of lists. And I think this is where, in terms of custom flow, identifying who your people really are is also helpful too, so that, you're not showing up the same as the next guy in front of people. Now, when you get into the Autoflow, it can happen, right? I totally understand that. But this is why I also discourage people from focusing on farming, because that takes a lot of time and effort, and you might end up doing the same thing that somebody else is doing. Whereas if you build on your Autoflow foundation with custom flow to people who you know and they know you, your return is going to be so much greater.
Yep.
And your investment's going to be a lot lower too, by the way, time and money.
Well, and I think when you first start in the business, let's say you have a good sized database, you're just starting in the business, to get something going out. Let's say you don't have a whole lot of cash flow coming through right now, and you're like, I got to get something going. There's great programs out there to get something going, something that's showing up in their hands. There's points you're gonna graduate up to maybe a little bit more of a little bit more cost involved, but at the same time, you're going to have the opportunity of being able to, okay, I can now have these be a little bit higher quality Autoflow pieces that are going out, and those companies exist. I know one of them specifically. Now, as you start to move up, then you're like, okay, now I can create this custom side of it. And there's a certain point that once your library is built and you have a system around it, I think the best flow programs are ones that are your voice all the time.
Well, Garrett, for those that are in that space where the cash flow may not be there, you have time, because you don't have business, which is the best place for you to start doing custom flow, because there's avenues you can go for free, right? Email, free. Social media, free. Text messaging, free. There's you grab your phone, record a video, and you can send it out, right? Like there's so much that you can do in the custom flow period because if you don't have the money, you have time. And if you don't have time and don't have money, well, then you're lying to yourself about one or the other. And so it's custom flow. There's so many areas on the spectrum that you can fit it. It's deciding what is it that I want to do and let me commit to the consistency, right? So Mark had mentioned on the podcast we just did that he, during the pandemic, was doing a video every day to tell people about what's going on. Now that shifted. He's not doing videos every day, but he had the time, so he did it and he committed to it. Not saying you have to commit to something like that, but if you're going to commit to something, figure out what schedule you can do it, because it is the consistency that provides the reward, right? And I mean, this is the law of compensation. Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So people are like, oh man, I got postcards going out to 5,000 people, but it's low value. Then that's ignoring the second half of the law of compensation, which is how well you serve them. Whereas if you're putting out great information in your voice, now we're elevating that second point, and we just got to work on that first side of how many people can we serve with that information. And that's where social media does have that opportunity, I'll say, because there's algorithms and all that kind of stuff too.
Well, and Mark even said it. And I think, again, it goes back into what was his intention behind it. But he said those videos every day is what gave him a foundation in Charleston and what he's doing down there. He had recently moved down there and basically went all in and said, okay, I'm going to educate these people. He also picked the time to educate them during a lot of uncertainty. So if anybody's listening to this going like, oh, I'm going to update people every single day on what's going on in the housing industry right now. Interesting is right now might be an interesting time to kind of be a voice like that. And there's other times when it's like, you know what? That's not the best place you should be spending your time doing a video every single day about the housing industry. So it all goes back to what is your intention? Are you trying to be famous and have people see you? Or are you trying to be an educator and be of value, which then goes back to teach me while I'm not paying attention? And I think it's important for all of you, look at the message that you're putting out. Look at the things that you're currently invested in right now for Autoflow and marketing, and ask yourself, what is the message that this is creating about how this person sees me and my value and the information that I have and my expertise? Because there's a lot of Autoflow programs out there that if you had to look at that and say, what am I teaching them about me? You're going to step back and be like, I can't invest my money in this anymore. I need to put my money somewhere else because this is not the message about how I want somebody to see me. And you're going to start moving up through different Autoflow programs. And you're going to all of a sudden find some out there that you're like, this one actually shows me to be a real estate agent professional in the industry, or this is my expertise and my background. And then as you grow, you hopefully will start to create your voice flow that all of a sudden makes people go, and that is Matt Bonelli. That is Matt Bonelli, and this is all the things I know about him. And man, that guy is true. And when I get something in my hands that it's 100%, you can just see Matt all over it. That's the stuff that'll make your business come to life, is when you can really go down that. Some people never go that. They never get to that, and that's okay. They found a great Autoflow program. They run with it. There's just some that take the easier way out. And that's why I wanted to talk about this today, Matt.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. And I think to just kind of stamp this on the difference, custom flow is a level up. And everybody's here because they want to take their business to some next level. And if that's you, then custom flow is the answer for you, and figuring out, okay, what it is. And I'll even throw out an idea, Garrett, for people right now is in this time of uncertainty, once a week, take the headlines, look at those articles, read them, and then do a video talking about what you read and what you see as it relates to market data. And this could be like literally a 90-second video. We're not talking about a 20-minute dissertation on why these articles are correct or incorrect. 90 seconds. It doesn't take a lot of time.
It's funny, as we say stuff, I can hear people out there going, but. I could even see somebody who has a really successful real estate business right now going like, so wait, now you're telling me that I need to now create more custom pieces? Like, ugh. But your voice, it's interesting. You can easily look at your assistant or somebody you have working for you, or somebody that you hire to do postcards, and say, look, I want to create a relationship with you where once a week, I just want to sit down and I want to throw topics at you, things that are my ideas, my points of view of what's going on in the marketplace, my vision of what I see happening out here, top things that I see bring the highest dollar for the clients that I'm working with right now. I'm going to share that with you, and can you create a postcard around it? And I've seen people have that where it's now fully custom. They're just the thought creator around it. Great postcard gets created, boom, goes out the door. It's a one-off. Nobody's going to have that. It's unique to them. And again, creates a library for future uses of great data and info. So don't overthink it, but overthink it.
Don't overthink it. And if there is a time to start overthinking, we have business planning coming up here very soon. I mean, by the time this podcast goes live, I don't think dates and things will be announced, but in October,
end of October,
Larry Kendall will be doing his business planning webinar. That's the time to think about this stuff. And, don't stress about, unless you got the time right now. I want to go back to the people who you don't have cash flow, you have time, think about it. For those of you, your business is running, you're excited, everything's good, great. Come business planning time to sit down and think, what can I prepare and systematize for custom flow so I can get my voice in front of my people more frequently in order to provide value. So look out for the business plan.
And Matt, really important too, because there's still a crazy amount of people out there that I find that they don't have any Autoflow at all. They run along the lines of, oh, darn it, I haven't had a postcard that's gone out in 2 months. And then they wonder why they're always just never really getting traction in their business. And that's why it's important to get some sort of plan around this, because it will make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And for even more ideas, you could go search our podcast at theninjasellingpodcast.com. There's a search feature up there. You can type in the word flow. We have a lot of other episodes on it. Also look for the episode with Sarah Johnston in Canada, because she shared her whole, like how she plans her flow for the year with her people. And it is customized. She does have some auto flow elements, but it is a custom flow plan that she uses to be in flow with her people. So check that out too for some inspiration. If you haven't joined our community yet, Garrett, they should head over to Facebook.
They should.
Facebook.com/groups/The Ninja Selling Podcast, and join over 9,000 people in sharing the ninja love, right? There's posts every single day with questions or suggestions, encouragement. We got a guy, Alan, in there who took the whole win the day concept that we talked about in one of our podcasts, and he's posting his updates, and he's got the green X's every day. And that's cool to watch that. I'm inspired. I'm like, man, I got to step my game up. So thank you, Alan, for that. So that's the type of stuff you'll get in there. And if you guys are looking for an installation, which if it hasn't filled up yet by the time this podcast goes out, there's an open installation here in Charleston where Garrett and I will be at. It's going to be amazing. We're going to work on getting a live audience podcast session set up one of those evenings as well, which is going to be really cool. So go out to ninjaselling.com, click on the calendar. You can sort by public events and you'll see all the public installations available. And then November 7th, you find the Charleston one. Sign up. We would love to see you and say hi and shake some hands, give some hugs. What else? That's it.
Done.
That's the episode. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com.
There you will also find links for more information about ninja selling and coaching. Have an incredible day.